Hey, Mad Money fans, Cramer's off tonight, but we have a very special hour ahead for you.
It's the Reddit rebellion. Main Street versus Wall Street. David versus Goliath. Age-old conflict reignites in a thoroughly modern arena. Armed with lightning-fast communication and trading platforms, a battalion of independent investors take on towering hedge funds.
I've never seen it before. And what Wall Street Bets, which is really driving this, what they've done, that's a site on Reddit. What they've done is target large short positions. Now, they have not targeted small short positions. GameStop was 148% short.
But the old guard has deep pockets and deeper reinforcements.
The lack of integrity in the system is the precursor that caused GameStop to be sold short 136%, and for people to try to pile on and destroy a company in front of our eyes. That to me feels wrong. That feels pretty un-American, if you ask me.
Who will come out on top?
An investor does not own GameStop. A speculator owns GameStop. Let's not confuse speculators with investors. GameStop business was going down the toilet. Their revenues were declining. Their EBITDA was negative. They have no earnings, and they had an enormous market cap. This is speculators playing around.
Here now is Melissa Lee.
Great to have you with us tonight. Let's get right to it. Joining us for the hour, CNBC contributors Dan Nathan and Courtney Gibson, and we have a very big interview coming your way. The CEO of Robinhood will join us in just moments. Meantime, as we come on air tonight, check out shares of GameStop. They are rallying in the after hours on news that Robinhood will allow limited buys at tomorrow's open on that stock and others. This comes after Robinhood and other retail brokerages restricted trading on these high-flying names during today's regular session. Our next guest is calling those new restrictions on trading un-American. Joining us now is Morgan Creek Digital Assets founder Anthony Pompliano. Anthony, great to have you with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
What's so un-American about this?
Yeah, look, obviously this has been building for a while, right? And I think that there's a bunch of investors who believe that they've been punished as savers through the devaluation of the dollar. They've gone to the stock market, and today they are equipped with information, communication tools, and access to markets. And the friction to those three things has been driven nearly to zero. And all of a sudden, they start to find exploitations in the market. They find mistakes that large hedge funds have made. And the second that they start to exploit those weaknesses or those mistakes, the markets get shut, or the stocks, they can't trade them anymore. And so what we're seeing is people who are saying, wait a second, if you're going to risk capital and you're wrong, you should lose. Because if I risk capital and I lose, and I'm wrong, then I'll lose. And so all we're watching is we're just watching the acceleration where these people are going to pick up the ball and they're going to go play elsewhere. And they're going to move to the digital decentralized financial system that is a free market that operates as a meritocracy where the best idea wins.
Right.
If you're right, you profit. If you're wrong, you lose. There's no bailouts. There's no circuit breakers. There's no hours of operations. There's no one to call to halt the trading of a stock. If you're right, you profit. And if you're wrong, you lose. But that's no longer happening in American financial markets. We now have manipulated markets where the free market does not reign, and therefore we're going to accelerate the digital decentralized financial system that's being built.
There is an undercurrent in this chat board. I'm not sure if you have gone on Wall Street Bets yourself, Anthony, but there are certainly a number of people who are on this forum who say they were burned by the financial crisis. And we have one open letter to CNBC, and there are numerous letters to CNBC saying it's not just Wall Street Bets, but every person affected by the '08 crash that's now paying attention to GameStop are going to remember how you stuck up for firms that ruined so many of us and tried to tear down the little guys. And of course, remember also back to the crisis, it was the big Wall Street firms that got bailed out and not so much the small investors. There is that undercurrent there. And I think not surprisingly, Anthony, you know, the Bitcoin community has really sort of rallied along with the Wall Street Bets community. Why do you think there is that undercurrent there?
Yeah, look, technology is the great equalizer. And so for the last decade, basically the people in '08, '09, whether it was Occupy Wall Street and Zuccotti Park, or just Americans, frankly, around the country, they felt helpless. They felt like they couldn't do anything. But now with technology, that great equalizer, we've seen a reduction in the friction for information. You don't need a Bloomberg terminal to play in the public markets anymore. You can literally just have an internet connection. Communication tools. You don't have to go to the idea dinners. You can go on Reddit. You can go in a Telegram chat. You can go on Twitter. And then access to markets. I no longer need a traditional brokerage account. I can simply go on a Robinhood or some other peer or competitors of theirs. And so when the friction comes down for information, communication, and access, what you see is a level playing field. And so just like people will defend short sellers, and they will say short sellers are part of a healthy market, they will make the claim that we need short sellers in order to have that efficient market, to be a check on the bulls and on the longs. Well, we need retail investors to be a check on Wall Street. And if we go back in history, retail was right about Bitcoin, retail was right about Tesla, retail was right about GameStop. And so maybe we should start to think that retail isn't as stupid as everyone on Wall Street thinks they are. They've actually been more right than people give them credit for. And so I think whether it's Wall Street Bets, it's people on Twitter, or it's just a random person that has an internet connection and wants to trade stocks, open up the markets, allow the free market to reign. And if the hedge funds are scared of competing against retail in the free market, that tells you everything you need to know. Just open the markets and let them compete.
Right. And it is the retail investor who found a way in the system to engineer this short squeeze that brought a major hedge fund to its knees. I just want to make that point, Anthony, before Dan asks his question. Dan?
So, hey, Anthony, we saw this frenzy, retail interest in crypto, obviously Bitcoin. This was in 2017. Coinbase was that on-ramp. Obviously you talk about crypto as this amazing, decentralized opportunity for the everyday investor to kind of get a piece of what the future should look like, or at least the financial future. But at the time, Coinbase had its share of problems, right? Operationally, that's a very centralized network in a way. So now flash forward to this, and you see what we're going on, with Robinhood in a way. I agree with you. I think the people should be allowed to trade, but there's also there's bandwidth issues, right? And there's regulatory issues, and they seem very similar to me. I'm just curious if you can draw any comparisons to what we saw a few years ago in that retail craze and what we're seeing now in the stock market.
Yeah, look, I think what was happening in 2017 was absolutely bandwidth issues, right? The actual technology products couldn't handle the surges in new signups and in trading kind of volume. What we saw today was not that. What we saw today was a specific move by a platform to stop allowing trading. That would have been like Coinbase saying, hey, you can come on our platform, but you can't trade Bitcoin. You can trade everything else, right? They didn't shut down the platform. They shut down specific assets. And so again, I just go back to what we are seeing is an entire generation of young people that have an internet connection, and they are saying the system is rigged against me. The system does not want me to win. And so what they are going to do is they are going to pick up and they are going to move to a digital decentralized platform. And in that new financial system, there are no circuit breakers. There are no hours of operations. It's a 24/7, 365 days a year free market that you can't call anyone and halt trading. You can't sit and say, oh, wait a second, we fear that rich people aren't going to be as rich tomorrow, and so therefore we should address the problem. It's a free market, and that's what true capitalism is. And what we're watching in the American financial system markets is not capitalism. And there's a big, big portion of the population that wants a capitalistic free market, and they're going to go find it, and they're going to find it in the digital decentralized world.
Anthony, great to get your perspective. Really appreciate it. Anthony Pompliano, Morgan Creek. Courtney, it doesn't seem like this is an isolated instance of discontent with the establishment. It seems like we've been seeing this for years now, years in the making. I mean, Anthony had mentioned Occupy Wall Street, but even just within the past year, we've seen it with, or a couple of years, we've seen it with MAGA and what fueled that. We've seen it with Black Lives Matter. We've seen pockets of the society that feel completely disconnected, underrepresented, and not heard. And Wall Street Bets sort of reminds me of those sorts of movements.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for having me. It's always good to be with you. I like the narrative, and this may be the unpopular commentary for the evening, but I think maybe this started that way, and maybe there were some people that really felt like, I'm going to stick it to the man, I'm going to, go after hedge funds. But I also wonder, and I do have some friends that are in that chat, I wonder, did someone just come up with a really, really good trade idea, right? Like, did someone actually see the marketplace not acting in the efficient way that it should be and make a call on it. And because of the world that we live in, because we live in a highly digitized society, because information flows so freely, and yes, like the past guest mentioned, you can go on Robinhood, Cash App, you can trade from whatever venue that you want and put a trade on. And you tell your friends to put a trade on. And here you have this ripple effect. But what happened, however, did not stop with retail. And I want to be really clear with this, and I'm not going to go into conspiracy theories and everything else, but what I can tell you unequivocally is that 100 million shares of stock trading in GameStop in one day was not Melissa, it wasn't Courtney, it wasn't John, it wasn't Damien. These were institutions as well.
Oh, sure.
And whether it was momentum trading, quantitative trading that kind of went into play, which again is not a bad thing, right? These are strategies that are being employed. People were making money and losing money just as they do in the markets. I think this was just a little bit different because no one was expecting it. So, you know, I think there is a bit of that sentiment coming out now as it relates to the how should we put this, the discontent with what occurred, which I do think is wrong. Now, in the fine print, all these trading platforms say we can cut you off whenever we feel like it. That's the way of the world. Like it or leave it. But that's the way of the world. I do believe that it was wrong. You can't decide one day I want to protect you and one day I don't, because that ultimately causes a lack of trust within our markets, and we can't have that. We just can't have it.
Well, here's the thing, and I agree with everything Courtney just said, but I would also add, you know, on the institutional side, I mean, if institutional investors got together and colluded the way that a bunch of anonymous bots did on the deep web, whatever this Wall Street Bets Reddit stuff, and I know that, you know, you guys think they sound like a Luddite or this or that or whatever. I've been around long enough. I remember AOL chat rooms and Yahoo chat rooms and all the kind of malfeasance that went on around that, okay? This
you remember
is, you
people
know,
pretending
this sort of
who they were
action.
going to be?
Okay. My point is, I couldn't hear what you're saying. The point is like bear raids and short squeezes are as old as the hills, okay?
Sure.
And hedge funds have been regulated. Banks have been regulated, okay? If institutional investors acted the way that the Wall Street Bets community acted, they'd be shut down. They'd probably be put in jail or something like that. So my point, and we've been talking about this, Mel, all week long, that there's no doubt about it. There's probably some really smart people on Wall Street Bets on Reddit who got on the Robinhood trade and said, this is a good trade. You know, this stock, the short interest is 100% of the float, and if I buy a few hundred shares here, it may go up a few bucks if I start talking about it on the internet. No one expected to happen what had happened. Institutions got in a big, big way, and they started obviously pumping it up, but there's a lot of different players now. There's algos, there's high-frequency traders, there's opportunistic hedge funds.
Sure.
So as many hedge funds as this took out, there's going to be plenty that make a lot of money. And as I've been saying all week, the big winners are going to be the banks, the brokers, and the lawyers.
Okay.
And the exchanges. Because when you talk about trading volume,
Right.
I'm sorry, Melissa, I was going to say, I know you guys on Fast Money talk about where to put your money. If you didn't want to buy GameStop or AMC or play in the game, think about the exchanges and the volumes that are traded on those exchanges. That's where they're going to make money.
All right.
So there's a good stock pick for you in the hour, too.
Okay. We're just getting started here on this special hour programming. Up next, we'll hear from one top Wall Street strategist who says there is a regime change underway, how he sees this movement impacting your money, and later the growing calls for regulation, lawmakers demanding answers from Robinhood over today's trading freezes. We are all over that unfolding story when this special report continues. That's all leading up, of course, to a can't-miss interview. The CEO of Robinhood will join us to talk about the latest from the Reddit revolt. Stay tuned.